everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. On our positive mental health show, we've featured many types of addictions, but today we're going to talk about an addiction that's understated, but that can certainly lead to many problems in general, and that can cause a lot of anxiety and stress. And that's being addicted to shopping. So I'm sure some of you at home watching right now can relate to this. Now, addiction, according to the NHS Choices website, is defined as not having control over doing, taking, or using something to the point where it could be harmful for you. And also says addiction is most commonly associated with gambling, drugs, alcohol, and nicotine, but it's possible to be addicted to just about anything, including work. So workaholics are obsessed with their work to the extent that they suffer physical exhaustion. And if your relationship, family, and social life are suffering and you never take holidays, you may be a work addict. And a very, I suppose one from nowadays is the internet. So as computer and mobile phone use has increased, so too have computer and internet addictions. People may spend hours each day and night surfing the internet or gaming while neglecting other aspects of their lives. And the one we're going to talk about today, shopping. Shopping becomes an addiction when you buy things you don't need or want to achieve a buzz. This is quickly followed by feelings of guilt, shame, or despair. So that's the one we're going to focus on today. And of course, as always, you guys at home tweeting about this addiction too. So let's check some of your tweets. Now, this person says, got paid yesterday and I already spent over half my paycheck. Hashtag addicted to shopping. Wow. That's not good. Okay, and this person, Danielle_gross4, says, I can't even be in the mall for 20 minutes without buying something. Also, hashtag addicted to shopping. And then we have Anna Akonda, who says, I'm 20 years old and I still have to lie to my mum about how much money I spend at the mall. And she's put here, hashtag have a problem. And I think, yes, that's definitely an issue when you're having to hide from your loved ones. And at Janine93XX says, my bank account is dying. Oops. And also we have at Anna_Ondorf, who says, I seriously have a problem. If I can't shop in store, I go online. Right, so this is quite a serious problem, as we can see from our tweets. So let's tell you about our guest today. The first one is Serena Loderick, who'll be sharing her story about what this addiction did to her. And also we have our psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, and she'll be giving us the lowdown to this obsession and how it can mentally affect people. In just a sec, our fabulous news presenter, Excel Eshimomo, will bring us all the latest news. And later on in the show, I'll be sharing my top tips on how to tackle any addiction. But first, it's over to the lovely Excel with the news. Hello, Excel.
Hello, Chrissy. Good evening.
How are you, my lovely?
I'm very well, thank you. Happy to be here with you as always.
Do you like shopping?
I think I'm probably one of the very, very few women who says no. I really don't.
I'm one of those as well.
Okay, good.
No, I'll tell you what,
I think
it's a nightmare for me to be walking around shops for hours on end, because I know a couple of friends like to do that and it's like, oh, I'm so bored. I know what I want, I go get it out.
That's it.
We should go shopping together.
I know, we'll just go in there, I need this, shop, get out. And that is me. I think I tend to shop because I have a need to, not because, oh, it's Saturday, let's go to the mall. No. So I think that's my, I shop out of need, not want.
Oh.
But I mean, I came across a few interesting stories in looking for, researching under this topic. And I mean, like you said in the beginning as well, it's a compulsion to spend money, shopping addiction. And it actually has quite an interesting name. It's called shopaholism.
Oh.
Or oniomania, which is compulsive buying disorder.
Oh, okay.
Because it's getting recognized now as well as it's a condition. So I'm sure our psychologist will probably mention more about that. But something interesting I would say as well is that we tend to call it retail therapy when it's obviously a positive behavior, when it's an adaptive behavior, because you can sort of say, well, maybe say someone who's, I don't know, they've achieved something, so I'm going to treat myself this weekend and get myself
the word
renewed.
Therapy kind of suggests something.
It can be therapeutic, but it's when it's obviously out of control,
Yeah.
that's when it becomes what do you call it, an addiction. So I suppose it's that sort of fine line. Again, you know, it's something that too much of something can be, you know, when it becomes excessive, it becomes a problem. But yeah, because it says shopping can be a mood lifter and as an adaptive behavior when no compulsion is involved, and it is jokingly referred to as retail therapy. However, when it gets excessive is when it becomes an addiction. Yeah. I came across a woman who says she has a passion for fashion and ended up building herself up a debt of £40,000. Yeah. Because she's addicted to shopping. She began shopping as a teenager with her mother. Her name is Emma Sims, and she said she became used to getting what she wanted because, you know, her mother tended to use that for her as a, what's the word, like just to kind of reward her from, you know, growing up. So she now developed that and she turned retail therapy into shopping addiction, really, because it got to a point where she ended up spending £2,000 online every month on clothes. She says she also was suffering from severe depression, and she used that to also kind of, I suppose, fill that need. Her and her husband eventually had to sell their house and move in with his parents to be able to sort of offset this debt. And apparently they still have, I think this article says, the date of this article, I think they still have about a year left now from because they've now ended up having to put themselves under a payment plan. They, I think they said they had a charity work with them and help them to deal with this. But yeah, she says she ran this so much debt, and she says she would wear things once and the novelty wears off. And there are even things that she hasn't even worn. There are things that she would say to herself, oh, you know, I really, really need it. She would justify herself to say she really needs it, but she ends up obviously not using it because at that time she sees that I must get it and I want to get it, and that's that. I mean, because her mother also died of breast cancer when she was 24. She's, I think she's now in her 40s. Mother died when she was 24. And her dad remarried, which put a strain on the family. So there was a lot of psychological issues there. But obviously it's not, you know, didn't actually say, because the debts just spiraled and spiraled. When she got married, put her wedding on a credit card and all of that. It was just kind of bonded.
That's very deep-seated, isn't it, from that
Very,
age?
very much so.
Yeah.
But something interesting she did say is that she says she finds it a bit of a struggle because she says you can't not shop. Even if you're getting groceries, for example. So she says she
can't avoid it. Like
exactly. So it's not something you can avoid and say, oh, I won't go into pubs, or I won't buy cigarettes, or I won't buy drink. But this is something where it can be a positive thing, but obviously it's the self-control.
Okay. Please remind me to ask Dr. Tang about this.
For sure.
Because that's a very good point, actually, because it's not something that you have to shop at some point, and you have to buy clothes at some point.
Exactly.
So what do you do? How do you kind of avoid the temptation of doing that?
Yeah, I think that's what makes it particularly even more difficult. Another interesting ladies I found as well. A young lady was spending money she didn't have and ended up owing £20,000 as well on credit and store cards. She said she was earning money, she was buying stuff, and whenever she would come home and she would hide things from her husband. If her husband was at home, she would hide it in the car and wait for him to leave the house before she would then sneak the bags in and hide them at the back of the wardrobe. That is a serious issue. And their joint income was £30,000 a year, but they were struggling to meet the £400 a month minimum interest alone on the store cards, leaving them with just £5 a week to buy groceries.
£5?
£5. And with a young child, newborn at the time, which was not ideal. They said the family ended up having to live on pasta and tomato sauce with rice and ketchup. Oh. Well, I think it came to light when the debt collectors actually called the house and the husband picked up the phone, and that was when she was sort of sprung, really, and had to, their marriage did suffer as well.
Yeah, because that's such a big secret that, and it's affecting the whole family.
Exactly. But fortunately, they stayed together, you know, though they had their ups and downs, but they said they stayed together, and she also suffered from depression on and off for years. So this was also her way of coping to boost her mood. She says she found it a way of boosting her mood, and you know, for her, it gave her that buzz, it gave her that thrill in a sense. So when all of that sort of went out of control, I think she says she got given a loan, a home improvement loan. And so when that loan ran out, she already kind of had tasted that feeling, if you like. And so she went on to get credit cards where she was getting, sometimes, you know, they offer you these credit cards as well for, you know, oh, no credit check needed and all of that. So all of this easy money at her disposal didn't actually help, which of course, you know, we're not saying, obviously it's down to her as well to be accountable. But yeah, that didn't make it any easier. One thing she said, I felt guilty at Christmas when all of my son's friends got a brand new game, but my son had to make do with a second-hand console. She want the best for your children, and it's sickening that every time we have to tell our children they can't have something is because we're still paying for my secret shopping addiction.
Oh, you know what? She has to move on from that guilt, though.
Yeah.
Deal with the problems and just move on from that. Because if you keep beating yourself up, you won't recover. You still start to, you know, have all those negative feelings which are going to put you down, which kind of zap your energy, and it's just like a spiral.
And it's a vicious cycle.
And that is actually something for our viewers that may be addicted to something. Okay, you need to say your sorries to your family and to your friends and those people that you may have hurt because of your addiction, but there's a time that you actually say, okay, now I'm getting help for it, so I'm not going to keep feeling guilty. I'm doing something about it now.
Absolutely.
But exhale, it's time to go.
Oh no.
Go to a break.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, my lovely. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you. All right, so don't go away, because after the break, we'll be talking to our real life story guest, Serena Loderick, and later we'll be joined by psychologist Dr. Audrey Tang. See you in a sec.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
We're back here at the Chrissy B Show, and today it's all about the addiction to shopping. And right now, we're joined by our real life story guest, Serena Loderick. Hello, Serena.
Hi, Chrissy.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you actually for coming on to talk about something that's very personal, but that obviously, you know, you'd like to share also to help our viewers at home who may be addicted themselves or maybe have family members who are going through this difficult time. So tell us where it all began for you, because you didn't have this for, you know, way back, did you? It was something that kind of developed from something else.
It all started when my grandmother passed away, and she was a real influence in my life. Yeah. She was someone that was really positive in our family. So when she passed away, it was a shock to us because she was diagnosed with an incurable disease and she died in a really short space of time.
Wow. So it wasn't even time to kind of prepare or anything?
No, it was just a shock. So it was like this person that you love is there one minute and the next minute they're gone.
Gosh.
So even though she was quite old, she was a really significant part of the family. And it was like losing that member that I'd never see again.
Yeah, okay. And what then happened after that? Because obviously it was after the initial shock. What kind of emotions did you go through?
I felt really low, and I remember just feeling completely empty. Like I needed something to fill the space that was going on inside of me. So I developed this kind of addiction, which you can call it. It was an addiction to shopping. So I was doing this to make myself feel better. So everybody knows when you go shopping, you buy something nice, it lifts you up, it makes you feel better. So I'd go shopping and I'd be really like high, if you want to call it that, in the shops. I'd pick up like a top and I'd buy the same colour in like the same top, 5 different colours. I'd buy shoes, the same shoe, different colour. Trousers, the same trousers, different colour. So
didn't you realise at that point this isn't really good what I'm doing here? That
I knew it wasn't, but I wanted something to fill the gap that was inside of me. So I wanted something to lift me up.
Why shopping? Why did you go for that other than anything
I think it's something tangible, something that I could see, something that nobody could really take away from me because they were mine. It was like a possession. So if I bought these things, they were mine, unless I decided to give them away.
Yeah. Now, on your first shopping spree, how did you kind of feel on that first trip, and why did you maybe kind of? Because I'm trying to get to your thinking behind that first trip that started it all off. What was it about that particular day that set it all off for you? Would you say? I
think it was the sadness from inside. So missing my grandmother, the realisation she's never coming back. So what can I do to block that memory?
Okay.
distract myself.
It just happened to be the shopping, and obviously because it was tangible and...
Yeah, it just happened to be shops. I mean, if it was something else, it probably, I don't even know what it would be, but shopping was the thing that kind of distracted me from thinking about the whole situation.
How much would you spend like on an average spree that you'd have then?
Easily hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah, I had a credit card.
Could you afford it at the time?
I couldn't. I had a credit card. So I was working at the time, so I would spend my wages, but then to top up, I'd use my credit card. Because at the end of the month, you only need to pay off the limit.
Did you realise it was getting out of control though?
I knew it was, but it was like a safety net, because all I had to do was pay off the balance on the credit card and then I could go again.
Right, okay.
So
with all this stuff that you were accumulating though, didn't like your family members notice anything, and weren't you running out of space at home? What was happening there? They
would make little comments. So for example, my mum would say, "Oh, you've bought new stuff again. When I saw you the last time, you had that stuff." Or, you know, she might notice in my wardrobe and I'd say, "Oh, it's nothing to do with you, don't worry about it, I haven't. That's the same one that I had the last time that you came." Or my sister would say, "You don't need that, you know, why are you buying another pair of shoes? The same, you've already got those, you're buying another pair in the same colour." So people were noticing, but I was just trying to divert their attention from what I was actually doing.
Did you ever try to hide any of your stuff from your family?
Oh yeah. So I'd put like shoes, if my mum was coming over, I'd make sure the shoes were somewhere, you know, hidden away so she couldn't see them. Bags as well, that was another big problem. I'd have them all in a big box, closed in the box, so she wouldn't see them when she came over.
How did you feel about yourself, Serena, after, you know, straight after a spree, and then what were you thinking?
The same feeling would come back again, just hit rock bottom again, low. Okay, what can I do now? This hasn't fulfilled me. I have to go out again the next day to buy more stuff. So I was really empty, as I said, low. I was suffering from depression as well. I'd never felt happy. I always felt like something was missing for me. And this went on for a good 2 years.
Wow, so you must have accumulated quite a bit of debt for yourself.
I did. My financial life was a mess. It was an absolute mess. When you have a credit card, you get really deceived because you feel like you have money, but you actually don't. And you're accumulating all of this credit that's going up and up and up and up each month. Yeah. Because you don't really have to pay the credit card, you're just paying off the balance.
Okay. Now, Serena, I know you eventually got help for this problem that you had. You went to a charity that helped you, supported you. What things did you also do for yourself in a practical sense to help you to recover?
I started thinking rationally. So I would think, okay, I like to shop, I like to buy nice things, but I don't need to do it in excess. Right. So for example, if I saw something, I could treat myself to that thing, but I wouldn't need to buy the same thing 15 times over. Or if I couldn't afford the extra the next month, you know, in a sensible way I started to think, I could buy that the next month. I didn't have to buy everything all at once, beyond my means. So I started to think about what I was doing.
But what actually made you stop completely? Stop like overspending?
Going to the charity really helped because there were people there that had actually been through similar experiences that I'd faced.
Right, so you identified?
I identified with them, and they actually received help. And I received a lot of counselling from them, which really helped me to get my life back on track, step by step.
Had you actually realised that this was like an addiction at the time, or had you kind of gone for something else and then that also got dealt with? Did you actually know what you were going there for initially?
Yeah, I knew that I had a problem.
With the shopping?
With the shopping, but also how I felt inside.
Okay, right.
So I knew that I needed help, definitely, that there was something not right.
Okay. And how would you describe yourself today in the sense of your spending and your finances in general? How are they now? Like, did you pay your debts off?
Yep, debts are cleared. No more debts.
How did that
no
feel?
More credit card. A relief, free.
Yeah,
I felt free because it's a real burden every month. When you get your wages, they're not yours because I'm paying it back to somebody else. So you never feel like you have money in your account. So today, when I look back, I can see obviously I made a lot of mistakes, but now I'm able to rationalise, and you know, when I have my money in my bank account, I know how to spend it wisely.
Now, Serena, what do you say now, like that nowadays? Do you enjoy shopping still, or do you try to kind of avoid it?
I still like shopping. I still like it, but I'm just really rational and sensible.
Do you treat yourself in other ways as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Always, it's good. It's good to treat yourself,
definitely,
but to be sensible with it.
Right. And how about the viewers at home that are watching us now that maybe have this kind of issue? What advice would you give to them?
Think before you spend. And maybe do something else to distract yourself. If you feel like going shopping to expend excessive amounts of money, think about doing something else, you know. Channel your energy into something positive. So maybe you might want to go to the library, or you might want to take up a hobby rather than, you know, investing money in things that you're not going to actually use.
Okay. And just the last word for the family members as well, because what maybe could your family members have done differently or better that would have helped you, that maybe this person at home would also benefit from?
Maybe sat me down and actually said, you know, look, we're all facing the same situation as you. We've had a hard time, but I think at the time we were all suffering so much that it was hard for them to do that. But I think when families communicate, especially I think in this day and age, there's more opportunity to do that when they sit down and communicate, and they can just express to each other how they're all feeling, come together as a family to help each other.
Definitely. And obviously recovery is definitely possible, because you're a living testimony of that.
Yes.
And you know, that's really encouraging for our viewers as well.
Great.
Serena, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely having you on the show.
Enjoyed
it. All right, guys, so there you have it. So recovery is definitely possible, so don't give up. So next we'll be joined by one of our psychologists on the show, Dr. Audrey Tang. So don't go away.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. So now it's time to talk to our psychologist for the day, and that's Dr. Audrey Tang. Hello.
Hello Chrissy, thank you so much for having me back.
It's lovely having you back, because you're very, very knowledgeable, and I know this one is a subject also that you know a lot about. So
this is a really interesting one, really interesting one.
Now we were also talking during the break actually, and saying how maybe this isn't really classed as an addiction. Can you explain that to us?
Yes, of course. Yeah. The main form of classification is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and researchers have been trying to class it as either an addiction or as an obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay. There hasn't been enough evidence to actually class it as either of those at the moment, so it does fall under the category of impulse control disorders, so the ICDs, and it's known as compulsive buying.
Okay.
And what this tends to relate to, compulsive gambling comes under this as well, is it falls into 4 stages. You get the person who anticipates the wanting to go out, they then prepare to go out, they then shop, and they feel that feeling of euphoria once they've shopped, and then often in the reflective phase they feel guilty, they feel a bit depressed because they've spent the money. And it's known as an impulse control disorder, really, because it's that feeling of, I want it and I must go out and get it, and the only way I'm going to feel better and not feel so anxious anymore is if I'm able to do it. It's similar to an addiction, but because it's not a substance, it's not necessarily treatable with a somatic therapy, it can't quite fit under the addictions.
And why is it that certain people maybe will go for, as we spoke earlier, retail therapy to feel better about something, or try to escape another problem, and other people go for other kind of thing? What's the difference?
Compulsive buying falls under biopsychosocial causes, which means that you may actually have a personality, an addictive personality, which means you're more likely to find joy in doing that sort of repetitive behaviour again and again and again. And that could be shopping, it could be work, it could be something that gives you that ritual, that feeling of comfort. It can be because Shopping may have made you feel better about something, and instead of facing what the real problem is, you just keep going shopping again and again and again. So it can be that as well. It can be a learned behaviour. It can be because you've seen your parents shop, or you've seen a brother or sister or a friend shop, and they feel better, or they look nice. Suddenly you feel, oh, I must do it as well. And so it has a sort of a mixture of those three things. Although people might have, say, an abnormal functioning of the dopamine receptors that gives you that euphoria, gives you that sort of high, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will definitely go into shopping, or you'll definitely become a gambler, or you'll definitely become an alcoholic. It often takes a trigger, and there's another cause known as the diathesis stress model. If you become very stressed for any reason, you may relieve that through shopping. And again, you form that association and you carry on going. So it's one of those, it's a very fascinating disorder because it can have so many different causes. It often comes on quite suddenly, but usually around the age of about 20, mid-20s, because that's the time where you have a little bit more financial independence. Does tend to go out. I've got my own source of income, I've got my grant, I've got my uni loan.
Grown up all of a
Exactly. But it does tend to affect more women than men as well. But whether that's just because that is the way that women culturally have gone to sort of release feelings of stress, they may go shopping, they may go for a massage.
It's a joke as well, isn't it? People say in jest and in laughter, but it's true, it happens.
It does. But that doesn't mean men can't be compulsive buyers either. Men can be, and often a lot of men hoard. So hoarding is known as more of an addiction and has its own classification in that diagnostic and statistical manual, but compulsive buying hasn't quite got into that category just yet.
So Audrey, are there different levels of this disorder?
It often starts as retail therapy. You go out, you buy something, you feel better, you do it again, you do it again. The problem comes when you start doing it in secret. And then also it gets worse when you're not even using whatever it is that you've bought. So if it's retail therapy, you're buying something for you. It's a treat, you want to wear it, it feels nice. And that's usually the end of that particular going out and buying that particular purchase. However, often with compulsive buyers, it's the shop and the spend that's the important part, not the actual use of the object or whatever it is you've bought. And if you notice that there's suddenly a few things mounting up in your room, or you're hiding things under the bed, or you're not telling your loved ones something, there is a problem.
And how about treatment? What kind of treatment is available for
Again,
people?
it's because it's biopsychosocial. Often you talk about CBT, so cognitive behavioural therapy, challenging whatever the thought is there, whatever that association is. Why does shopping make you feel better? Will something else make you feel better? And then the behavioural element makes you go out and practice whatever you've been what's been suggested to you in therapy. However, sometimes compulsive buying may stem from a different trigger. It might be a deeper rooted psychological factor, which means that more psychoanalytical therapy may help a little bit more. So you actually get back to the root of the issue. And once you face the root, then you can form more appropriate associations to deal with it rather than going out and going shopping. So it can be a mixture of the two things. I personally feel this is one of the areas where psychoanalytical therapy isn't enough on its own, but then I don't think cognitive behavioural is enough either. So I think you do need a little bit of both.
Now, as we were speaking earlier with Excel, you can't, with other like addictions and things like that, you kind of can avoid certain places, certain people, but you can't avoid shopping because you have to do that on a daily basis sometimes. Yeah,
it's all about bringing it out into the open. So if you know you do have a problem, then some of the things you can do is you can write down a list of things and stick to that list. That's all you can do. Very similar to compulsive eating in some ways. If you keep a food diary and you can see exactly what you're putting into your mouth, it suddenly becomes much more real. So same thing, if you write a list down of things that you need to buy and tick those off and only stick to those. If it's a worse problem, what you may need to do is speak to your loved one and say, I need to go and buy these things, just give me enough money to buy those things. And it's almost cutting off the source of the credit. Another thing that you really have to do is if you are getting yourself into debt, find a way of managing that debt. You've got to stop that debt right from the start. As soon as it comes out in the open, it's best to go and speak to debt relief, or someone. The council can be quite helpful as well. They can give advice, and if it does mean you need to go for a bankruptcy order or something like that because the debts really have spiraled out of control, sometimes just by the act of getting out in the open can make a big difference and help you take the first steps to sort of curing it.
And in the case of maybe where this issue has actually affected relationships, where do you, because obviously it must be really difficult already having to deal with the issue and then having the guilt that you feel because of all the people that you've affected and maybe even lost a partner because of it. Well, how would the person get around that, do you think?
There's two issues that relate to this. The first is that there's no... Just because somebody is of a certain intellect or class or social status doesn't mean you can't be affected by compulsive buying. It crosses all different types of ability, types of intellectual understanding, and that can be where the first problem is. If somebody is very good at justifying their behaviour, very good at saying, no, I needed that object, I need it to buy that, it's very hard for it to come out in the open. Your friends, your family might recognise there's a problem. You may be incredibly good at saying, no, I'm absolutely fine. Then, as the friends and family get more and more worried, they start talking to you a little bit more. You then start feeling got at because you're thinking, well, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you understanding that I'm saying I'm fine and it isn't an issue? And it can be a case of building those bridges back in the first place. Once you've realised or finally admitted to yourself that it is an issue, it is a problem, it may be about saying to those people, look, I get it now, and
please support me.
Yeah, I was in a very dark place. I'm getting out of that dark place. It's not going to be easy. Please stay with me. So it can be the first thing. But exactly as you said in the earlier part of the programme, then it is a case of saying, okay, I've got help. I can't keep almost holding on to that guilt anymore, because if you do hold on to it, it's actually easier for you to relapse back into doing it. Because again, it's the more you hang on to something, the more you're thinking about it. If you've already got slightly addictive personality anyway, it's quite easy to go back.
Square one.
It's about
but there is hope for everyone, isn't there?
There
Definitely,
is.
There's help for you, and the first step is to actually talk about it and make sure.
It's getting it out into the open, because the whole thing about any form of addictions or compulsions, it's all to do with the secretive nature of it. And once it is out in the open, it's easier to deal with. It's the same thing about writing lists. Another, if it's not too bad, if it's not a major problem, and it's just a case of sometimes you overspend. Another thing that you can do, because research has shown that if you shop outside your own area, your own living kind of radius, you tend to spend more, which is why we spend more on holiday. We tend to spend more when we go and visit relatives. So one of the things I would advise is, if you're going to say visit friends and you want to bring them presents, don't shop there. Shop at home, wrap it all up. It's done. You just bring the present, and that's sorted.
Great advice. Audrey, thank you so much for coming on and enlightening us on this subject.
Absolutely.
Great as always.
Fascinating subject.
It definitely is. Thank you. All right, guys, so don't go away, because we do have more for you. And if you have an inspiring story or an experience to share, do get in touch by filling in the form on chrissybshow.tv, or let us know your thoughts or advice on this subject by tweeting us at Chrissy B Show or commenting on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Now, after the break, I'll be giving you my tips on how to tackle any sort of addiction. We'll be right back.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone, and today we've learned about the addiction to shopping, but my tips today are going to be about tackling any kind of addiction. So let's start with the first point, which is to get to the root. Now, many people try to treat the surface of an addiction, and this doesn't actually work. So if you ever watched those shows about hoarders that we see on TV, it's like they get people to go around to their house and, really clean it up well, and they help the person declutter and everything. And But the thing is, it doesn't, in many cases, it doesn't actually last, because soon the person starts to bring other things in and they start to hoard again. And the reason for this is because the root of the actual hoarding hasn't been addressed. So for example, I know a lady who started hoarding after her mum died. So she just started to keep all these things in the house, and she had people trying to help her to get rid of the stuff, but she just kept accumulating things again because she hadn't dealt with the pain of losing her mum. So she actually became addicted to hoarding. So you need to ask yourself, why do you have this addiction? Why do you do what you do? Is it because you're trying to avoid the pain of something else? Are you trying to forget about something? So you really need to kind of face this and actually really have a good think and trace back. In some cases, it might be really, really obvious what actually happened. In other cases, you might have to really kind of sit down and think and visit places that might be a bit painful for you. But when you do that and when you identify the root, then that's the best place to start, because that's what you need to actually treat, which is the next point, which is to treat the root. So as I said in a previous show, sometimes it can seem very tempting to actually avoid pain, but in actual fact, pain is a warning sign to you that something needs to be dealt with, just like a physical pain is warning that something's wrong in your body. So even though it might be painful to dig up the roots and try, to find certain things from your past even, well, once you treat that, you'll find that naturally the addiction will also be easier to get out of your life as well. The third point is to find alternative ways to cope. So while you're treating the root of the problem, you can also find other ways to cope with the difficulties and emotions that you're still going through. So whether that's maybe vigorous exercise or a hobby that you can really get stuck into, or being spiritual even, you need to find something that actually works for you. So if when you feel tempted again to do that certain thing, you do this other thing now that you found that's more healthy for you, that will help you immensely as well. The fourth point is to avoid danger. Now this one is very, very important. If there are certain triggers that normally cause you to turn to that addiction, avoid those triggers in the first place. So if, for example, being around a certain person or a certain group of friends makes you feel bad about yourself or tempts you, you're just going to have to avoid them. And if certain places make you feel tempted, just don't go there. So yes, at first you will have to let certain things go, but if you want to recover, you will need to make these sacrifices. And they might seem like huge sacrifices right now, but later on you'll see how much you didn't actually need these things in the first place anyway. The fifth point is to get support from people that you trust. So whenever you are going through a difficult challenge, because overcoming an addiction is something very difficult, it's so important to get people behind you, people that you can trust, people that you know are really rooting for you, that really want to help you, that really want to see the best for you. And when you do this, when you have this support group around you, it's so much easier to actually face any kind of problem, not just an addiction. So you can tell them, for example, when you're feeling a bit tempted, or when you're feeling low, or when you're feeling like giving up, and they will talk you around and help you. And just by having them around you is already going to give you a boost, because sometimes you're not even like you're just doing it for yourself, but you could be doing it for others as well, even your family members and people that care about you, that want to see the best for you. And the other point is, the last point is to be accountable and have a support system. When you have someone that you actually kind of answer to, so someone that maybe can be checking up on you, or it's kind of encouraging as well. It's like it's quite similar to the previous point, but this one is more someone that maybe is a bit more strict with you and kind of gives you a call and says, okay, what have you done today? Were you tempted? So it's more like kind of working with you more closely. So that's really helpful as well. Sometimes there's many agencies and charities that can actually do that kind of work for you. And the next point is to make sure that you reward yourself. So it is, a very tough journey, as I mentioned earlier already. So it's important that you do actually, reward yourself, do something nice to treat yourself because of it, because that's also going to encourage you to keep going until you completely overcome this problem. So you can do this by, for example, organizing a meetup with a friend and do something that you don't normally do, so something out of the norm that can even keep your mind busy. And here's a suggestion as well, something that I did that I'd never done before that was really good fun. Let's watch this. everyone, today we're in central London about to take in a few sights in a different way today, and I have my friend Fernanda with me. Look at all this food.
My first time seeing Big Bang.
So apart from the delightful food that you can see in front of us, they also thought of everything because they've given us these delightful mugs because we are on a moving vehicle, so health and safety first, of course. And they're absolutely lovely, look at them. Wow. So Fernanda, how are you enjoying it?
I don't know how to express myself. I don't know if you know London like this, for me, something priceless.
Yeah. Oh. Now been brought the scones as well with, of course, our clotted cream and our strawberry jam. And we get a doggy bag to take away. So we've just finished our lovely bus tour with BB Bus Tours. I had a great time. How about you, Fernanda? What did you think of it?
It was lovely. It was an amazing day. So I'm happy.
She's very happy. So she had a nice food, lovely food.
Yes, nice moment. Everything was perfect.
Oh, so I'm so glad she enjoyed herself. All right, so it's back to the studio. Okay, so that was definitely so much fun. So let me now recap the points that I spoke about earlier on how to overcome any addiction. So the first one was to get to the root. The second point was to treat the root. Okay, so it's very important that you find where the problem's coming from in the first place and that you go straight to where it's all coming from or where it all began to treat it. The next point was to find alternative ways to cope. So instead of getting tempted by that thing, you find other things that you can do to occupy that really vulnerable time as well. The next point was to avoid danger. So that was involving avoiding certain people and places that might make you more tempted. The next point was to get support from people you trust. So that could be family and friends that, it would even be in your interest to get over this addiction because of affecting them as well. And the next point was to be accountable and have another type of support system by actually having maybe a mentor or someone that has been through it before, that knows the drill and knows how to help you and how to talk you through the hard times. And then lastly, it was to reward yourself because it is a tough thing to do. You should give yourself a pat on the back when you get through certain stages of your recovery, and all of it, you do deserve the best, so do treat yourself as well. Although if the addiction was a shopping addiction, maybe don't reward yourself by spending money on something else. Maybe you can choose a different kind of reward. Okay, so overall, addiction to shopping is something that you can overcome just like any other form of addiction. And of course, it's always best to look after your pennies for when you really need them. So sadly, that's all we have time for today. And don't forget, if you have a story to tell us, an experience to share, to help educate, inspire and motivate others, do contact us by filling in the form on chrissybshow.tv. Also, let us know your thoughts or advice on this subject by tweeting us at Chrissy B Show or comment on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And don't forget, you can also visit my website, mylifeafterdepression.com, if you'd like to find out more about the experience that I went through with depression and panic attacks and many other issues that I had, like insecurity, shyness, complexes, all of that stuff is all there on the website. And I also talk about how I recovered to be the happy person that I am today. So thank you again to all our lovely guests today. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
I need to
Sorry.
pull, hide the cable because it's showing. No, can you pull it from the side?
Oh, this side. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
stand up.
so
Did I miss one? I'm so sorry. It's going so well. Sorry, everyone's going to be
there we go.
Okay, thank you.
When you shop, how you used to fall, did you hide everything?
Not kind of hide, but I would